All right, Jesus, take it away.
Okay, good afternoon. Our first question is, where did you go to high school and what was it like for you?
I went to Kofa High School in Yuma, Arizona, and Kofa stood for King of Arizona Mines because there used to be a lot of mining nearby. I grew up in a small agricultural community, and what I really felt was that even though I was in a rural school, I had a really good education. I felt that I got the preparation I needed for college, and I also benefited because right as I was coming to Yuma, I moved there when I was in 5th grade. They really committed to having a great Yuma City County library. And it turned out to be such a great resource because in addition to school, there was so many things that I could do to, improve and enrich my own understanding. And so I think I look back and I'm grateful for the fact that I went to a rural school, and often they're seen as not having the same resources and opportunities. And maybe we did not have all of the bells and whistles, but I think we still got a really good basic education.
That's nice. Okay, who were your role models when you were in high school? Sorry.
Well, it's interesting because when I was in high school, to be honest, the most significant thing that happened for me in terms of my college going and my choices about college, I was selected to go to a summer program. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was an honors program that the National Science Foundation did in mathematics. And so you had this opportunity to go to a college campus and study college level mathematics. And when I was there was a professor who ran the program, and his name was Dr. Deaton. And he took me aside and asked me where I was going to college. And I had planned to go to one of the Arizona schools because I was growing up in Arizona, but he urged me to look beyond Arizona. And I didn't want to be too far from my family, so I didn't want to go to the East Coast and the Ivies. But he said, you should think about Stanford. And so that's actually how I ended up at Stanford for college, because he really took the time to reach out to me and alert me to the opportunities beyond Arizona that there were. He also took my parents aside and told them the same thing. So he didn't rely on me to tell them what he had said. He made sure to tell them directly. But I think that was really key, because I don't think I would have otherwise gone to a place like Stanford without that intervention by Dr. Deaton.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That was actually our next question. We were going to ask, how did you become interested in applying to Stanford? But you answered it
Yes.
really well. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. I guess I was anticipating a little.
Okay, when you were at Stanford, what were your 3 favorite things about living in Palo Alto?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I didn't get off the campus that much. So I think that probably they're all campus related. One of the things that I really loved is I had come from a small town. I'd never been in a place that had so many libraries, so many beautiful libraries. And I just loved the ability to go to the different libraries and study, and just the surroundings were so gorgeous. I felt that it was like this wealth of riches to have so many options, because I'd only had my small school library and then a very nice city county library, but I couldn't have imagined it in such a small space there would be so many. So the libraries were one of my favorite things. Another thing that I loved was there was a coffee house on the campus, and you could go there and get something nice and comforting and kind of take a break there. And it was in the student union. And I don't know if it's even still there because I haven't been back for a while, but and there's a pandemic, so who knows if it survived, but it was a really nice place to go. And the other thing that I really enjoyed was just the physical beauty and I had a bicycle, being able to bicycle around and just enjoy the physical beauty of the place, because, the college study was very intense, and it was just this way that you could kind of just relax, even if you were just cycling to and from home or in between classes, because it was just so consistently gorgeous.
That's nice. You then went on to Yale Law School. Can you tell us how you overcame so many challenges to excel at Stanford, Yale, and beyond?
Yes, well, it's really interesting because when I went to Stanford, I realized the hierarchy in higher education. I hadn't actually realized how stratified it is. It's probably even more so today. But once I was there, I think I understood it. And so I applied to, the top law schools. And I was admitted, and I was trying to decide because people had said it's good to get away. I mean, I loved Stanford, but they said you shouldn't go to the same place where you went undergrad. You should broaden your horizons, venture out. So I thought, well, I hadn't wanted to be so far from home for undergraduate, but maybe I should do that for law school. So I got in at Harvard and Yale. And I remember that someone at Yale who was in the upper division called me to say, if you don't come this year, we won't have any people of Mexican origin in the entering class at Yale Law School. So I actually thought that it was important to have representation. I also thought that it would be nice to have smaller classes that weren't graded the first semester as I made the transition. So I think all of those things factored in at Yale. And I think once I got there, it is a bit of a culture shock. It's really different, I felt like, from Stanford. But I think my family, really, those were my mainstays, that I think they were my lifeline through everything, because they always were very supportive, very committed to my success. And I think, they were probably the key ingredients, because no matter what happened, I could count on them. They were always there. The love was unconditional. And so when everyone else is conditioning all their acceptance on a variety of things, knowing that somebody loves you unconditionally is really important.
Okay, thank you for your great responses. I would hand it over to Matteo now.
Okay.
Thank you, Jesus. This next one's a little bit long.
Okay.
How much progress has there been for Mexican American students if they are still overrepresented in special education and remedial classes and underrepresented in AP and challenging classes?
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously there is still room for improvement, as your question points out, but I will say that we've seen some very considerable progress. First of all, you might recall that some years ago, there was a huge gap in high school graduation rates between Mexican origin students and other students. That gap has really narrowed. Now, what we don't know is whether the pandemic is going to cause some setbacks in that progress towards narrowing the gap in high school completion. The next thing we've seen is there used to be a real problem that people who did finish high school didn't go on to college. And so there was this college going gap. And that also has largely evaporated. It's not the serious problem it once was. However, again, we know the pandemic has caused more people who are Black and Latinx, including Mexican American, to change their college plans. So we don't know, again, whether that's going to be a setback. But the area where we see ongoing issues is that that Mexican origins are not going to four-year institutions. A lot of them are going to two-year colleges, and then they don't transfer and get a bachelor's degree. And we know now that just getting some college doesn't necessarily substantially improve your labor market prospects. It's really necessary to get the degree, the bachelor's. And so the attrition in college is still very high. Also, there was some evidence that Latinx students in general and Mexican American students in particular were going to schools less selective than they could have been competitive to get into. And so that might be because of financial concerns. It might be because they wanted to stay near family. It might be because they planned to work while going to college, but for whatever reason, they didn't go to schools as selective as they would have been competitive to get into. And so we still have those problems. I'll give you the last problem, because I teach at a law school, is that we don't see the Latinx students, they have more, because of issues of debt and access, they aren't necessarily as likely, if they get a college degree, to go on and get a postgraduate degree like a PhD, a master's degree, a law degree, or MD, medical degree. And so that's another gap. And the final gap is that if you do get your degree, and you finish higher education, there's still a wage gap. So you don't get the same return on investment in higher education if you're a person of Mexican origin as if you're not, if you're white. So we see that for Latinx and Blacks as well. This ongoing gap in the return on investing in your human capital. And that is still persistent.
What is your message to Mexican American and Latino students on pursuing their dreams?
I believe this is an unprecedented moment of opportunity. Well, you asked me about when I was growing up, and I look back and I think, the Mexican American population was very small, and it was regionally concentrated in the Southwest. Now they project that by 2060, about 30% of the US population will be Latinx, and they will be dispersed throughout the entire country. This is not going to be a regional population. As a result, the country's future depends on the success of Latinx, who are mostly, by the way, Mexican origin, Mexican American. It depends so heavily on this group to be a full participant in American life. And so I think for people like you who are coming up now, you don't have to be the first to do things because other people have gone before you, but you will be the first to have the opportunity to address Latinx issues when this population is substantial, significant, impactful. You're going to have the chance to make a difference on a scale that no prior generation has had. So this is the time to be bold. This is the time to be visionary. This is the time to believe in your possibilities, but also the possibilities of this country to fully include all of its members. And I think you're going to be a leading spokesperson for not just your own dream, but the American dream.
Well said. Thank you. What are your interests and hobbies? What do you like to do for fun?
Okay, well, I have a couple of them. One is that I really enjoy taking walks. So it's not that different from when I was school and riding a bike, except now I do it on foot. And I enjoy taking walks. I enjoy listening to music of all types. I find that's very therapeutic. And then I love a good mystery novel. And so during the pandemic, when I'm not working, I enjoy kind of, having a nice mystery with some music in the background after a good walk.
What is your favorite Liga MX team or your favorite sports team?
Well, I must tell you that I haven't been a big sports person. And so I don't really keep up with sports very much and don't necessarily have a favorite team. I used to be the dean at UCLA School of Law. When I was, of course, the Bruins were my favorite team, but I'm not there anymore. So I think that I'm a neutral. I'm like a neutral country. I don't, and I also just don't keep up. When I was the dean, I kept up with all the UCLA sports, but I do know though that they went to the Final Four in the NCAA tournament.
Such a sad ending. They could have won.
In overtime by that ball that was thrown at the last minute on the buzzer for 3 points, wasn't it?
It was a very lucky shot.
Yeah, but then Gonzaga didn't win, and I thought that was kind of a big gap. I was surprised actually. So you see, I do keep up a little.
Yeah. Right. Final question. What are your plans for the rest of 2021?
Well, for the rest of 2021, my plans are, first of all, to finish up my classes this semester and get all the grades in on time, very important to the students. And then I want to continue to do the work that I've been doing on my project on the future of Latinos in the United States. And I've been exploring through the project different drivers of mobility. And this is a project that was supported by the American Bar Foundation, as well as by the law school at UC Irvine. And we are looking at education, which made your question about education so important. But we're also looking at economic participation. We're looking at voting and civic participation, and we're looking at immigration. And so I'm actually going to finish up one segment on economic participation and get busy with reading for the work on education next. And so I can have all the pieces of the puzzle eventually put together. So that's my plan, and I'm looking very much forward to it.
Well, I hope all goes well for 2021.
Yes, nice. I wish
appreciate
the
you.
same for you.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you giving up your time to support our club and its young people. We enjoyed learning about you and what you do. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Well, I wanted to thank you for inviting me to do it and wish you well with the project. And I think one of the great things about the project is it's going to help you to see models that you may or may not want to emulate, but you'll get ideas because you will be leaders. We need leaders in the community. And so it's going to be a way to think about different pathways. And I think it's a great project. I wanted to congratulate you on doing it.
Thank you so
and
much.
Good luck with it.
Means a lot to me. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a nice day.